Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking a truly fascinating psychological paradox. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the people who seem to know the absolute least about a complex subject are the exact same ones shouting their opinions the loudest, right? It's a wildly common phenomenon, and we're going to break down the specific mechanics of why incompetent people often think they're, well, amazing. It's an incredible journey into the human mind, so let's just get right into it. The less you know, the more certain you are that you know everything. That quote perfectly captures the frustrating and honestly kind of dangerous reality of the overconfidence bias. This is the entire core of what we're unpacking today. We're looking at this bizarre inverse relationship between actual proven competence and a person's perceived competence. In the psychology world, you might know this famously as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Section 1. The Overconfidence Trap. Setting the scene. To really understand the psychology here, imagine two very different characters. One is standing aggressively on this tiny, simple little hill. Their eyes are tightly squeezed shut and they're shouting to the world, "It's obvious!" They are just brimming with absolute, unshakable certainty. But then picture the second character. They're standing on top of a massive, incredibly complex mountain. They don't look overly confident at all, actually. They look a bit worried, carefully peering through a telescope. That first character on the tiny hill, they are the perfect embodiment of overconfidence bias. It's that bizarre psychological phenomenon where a massive lack of knowledge actually breeds a massive, totally unwarranted sense of certainty. Just think about someone who skims a single article online and suddenly believes they're a world-class expert on a highly complex topic. They're completely blind to the vast landscape of information around them. And, because they literally don't know what they don't know, they just assume there's nothing left to learn. Moving on to Section 2, the illusion of clarity, the zoom-out reveal. When we step back and shift our perspective, the reality of the situation completely changes. What looked like a strong, confident stance is actually incredibly precarious. That tiny hill, it isn't solid ground at all. The grand pedestal of their confidence is quite literally a pile of trash. It represents a fragile, hastily accumulated heap of half-truths, misunderstandings, and zero actual foundational knowledge. Standing blindly on that garbage foundation creates what we call the illusion of clarity. Because their understanding is so terribly limited, it creates a completely false sense that everything in the world is simple. It's exactly why they can face a highly complex topic, like that massive mountain we talked about, and confidently shout that it's just obvious. They literally lack the mental framework required to even perceive the complexity that is sitting right in front of them. Which brings us to Section 3, Danger of Shallow Processing, the reality check. Now, because standing blindly on a pile of metaphorical trash is never, ever a successful long-term strategy, a reality check is inevitable. Just imagine a massive, dense block of concrete hurtling through the air right toward our overly confident character. Stamped right on the front in big, bold letters are the words, "New Fact." This heavy block represents a piece of undeniable concrete reality. And this perfectly illustrates what inevitably happens when unquestioned certainty actually meets reality. First, that dense, heavy block of a new fact forcefully impacts the trash hill. Second, because that foundation was never solid ground to begin with, it immediately crumbles under the weight of actual truth. And finally, the overly confident character takes a massive tumble. Their unearned confidence just vanishes the very second their flimsy worldview is challenged. This spectacular fall is the direct, unavoidable result of shallow processing. When you only engage with information on a superficial level, just skimming the surface instead of digging deep to truly understand, you end up creating these highly fragile absolute answers. And honestly, it's a highly common cognitive trap that affects all of us. You might feel incredibly smart and certain for a brief moment, but those absolute answers completely shatter the second they sustain an impact from substantial, real-world information. Let's look at Section 4, Embracing Curiosity and Nuance, the Expert's Mountain. Now we can finally appreciate what's actually going on with the expert. Unlike the fragile trap of shallow processing, where people demand absolute answers and keep their eyes tightly closed to anything that contradicts them, the realm of expert nuance is entirely different. The expert isn't claiming the mountain is easy. They're actively embracing the complexity of it. By utilizing curiosity, carefully observing the world through that telescope, they acknowledge how much they don't know. And that healthy hesitation, that careful observation, is exactly what makes their intellectual foundation rock solid. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct question. Which hill are you standing on? It is remarkably easy to fall into the overconfidence bias, to let shallow processing give us a comfortable illusion of clarity. But true learning, true competence, demands that we open our eyes, pick up that telescope of curiosity, and do the hard work of climbing the complex mountain of real knowledge. So are you embracing the expert's nuance, or are you just standing blindly on a pile of trash, shouting that everything is obvious, simply waiting for a new fact to knock you down? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this essential concept today. Keep asking questions, keep looking through that telescope, and I'll see you in the next explainer.